It's a wonderful coincidence that we are here in Áras and Uachtaráin. It's 41 years next Tuesday since a photo appeared of the then Senator Higgins at Slane Castle for a Bob Dylan show. And I know because I was there, but nobody took my photo. This President is a music fan. Thank you, President, for your steadfast support of music and the arts over the last 14 years. And we wish you and Sabina all of the very best. All more. And now it is my great honour to invite President Higgins to speak.
I said I was moving much better 41 years ago in Slane. Erin Gedal Chiasas Minla Mar Toshatova to Firkin first Milabuikas and Folshushin a Darish of Rev Venus Mehain. Augusta Sulam got an Churkaminish Sosa of us on Kurkunil and Eversarum, Ock Tom Beck and Kaiton on Ord. Tá firkin fólksróð Uachtaráin Áras and Uachtaráin áitan a bhfuil Uachtaráin herin is mis a neo Uachtaráin in a códe ó nédiag troch a Uachtaráin. Agus tá is pleasure special to them go bhfuil muid cartera leis an sreasha des na cúisir a dagrach mid hána blianta le cuasaí ceol. May I just say how welcome you all are to Áras and Uachtaráin, which has been the home of Irish presidents since 1938. I'm the 9th president, and I think that we're coming to the end of a series of garden parties, which will be our final series of Sabina and myself. I was hoping that as thunder we badly needed to clear the air for them. But I must say as well that over the last 14 years, I want to begin by saying, as we moved around the country, Mavwikaslev, I want to thank you for the warmth of the reception that Sabina and I have got in so many different circumstances and so many different places throughout the island and indeed beyond. I also think that one of the reasons why we have these garden parties gathering is it gives us an opportunity to recognise citizens who work away week in, week out, often doing very important, and particularly those who are working in the caring area, that are very, very important parts of our lives together. I think you're joining us for what then is a celebratory occasion. It is the final garden party of this particular season, as we say. So whether you're a musician or a music lover, our wish is that you will all have a most bunchan of us on Áckid show. I have to say that it has been, when I look back on it as well, I'll just say only one thing this evening. Indeed, the MC has just been saying how music is important. Music is a part of our life, and over the last several garden parties of this particular year, I have made reference, and I do so again tonight, because music can be an occasion for the transmission of sorrow and the sharing of a great grief. And I'm sure that there's so many people who will want to join with me in sending our wishes and our solidarity to all of those suffering incredible grief in Gaza and who are on the This afternoon I heard of the death of a 70-year-old cardiologist, which is just one of the 2 cardiologists left alive. And I think that Marwan al-Salam, and also I think now 70 people who are working as helpers in hospitals and so forth have in fact been killed as they worked. Our strength, that is why music is so important. Music knows no borders, and music is able to handle the celebrations of joy as much as it can carry great sorrow. In fact, it is very interesting about the origins of sounds and music and where they come from, including the sounds of other species delivered from the sea and which are transmitted and becomes the basis of great songs and great pieces of music. In Irish culture, music and song has been it has been central. I think that the music, as you have just heard as well, is something that we inherit, but also something that is continually being added to in a number of ways. And that is so because in the case of Irish country music in particular, and Irish folk music in general, it has travelled across the Atlantic and it has been on the mountains and it has come back richer. And therefore what we always have is a mixed contribution of several cultures. And I think what is in the modern period, which is very interesting, I should say as well, in reference to the introduction as well, when I was in Manchester in the end of the 1960s, it was during that time, Lent was still, in fact, a time when, in fact, the dance halls were all closed because only Monsignor Holmes and another could stay playing during the period of Lent. And I met many of the Irish groups who were in fact playing in the working men's clubs and otherwise. And they were all wonderful. But what is great about all of that, there are some lovely things I have always enjoyed about Irish music anyway. And that is something that is deeply respectful, is that when a musician, for example, introduces a tune, long before we ever heard of intellectual property, there's the wonderful ethic that is involved in saying where you found it. I got it from so-and-so, who got it from so-and-so. And this is a deep, deep cultural respect, which is very particular to musicians, or as they say in Cavan, musicianers. Now, I think as well as that, something which is very important is the welcome that established performers have in fact offered to young people coming in to join in their sessions. I think as well that while songwriting and the playing of different musical instruments have techniques and they can be learned, I think every now and again there is something else, a kind of an intangible alchemy that the performer will always know when something special has happened. And in fact there's no such thing as something being performed when it is performed anew every time. And also there is the time when in fact actually when they would say to each other coming off, that was, I'm not going to repeat it, but that was gracious, this translation. We are so fortunate that we've had in this country so many gifted musicians, singers and songwriters. And we're fortunate that so many of them are with us this evening and performing. So I thank them for coming and sharing their craft with us. We're celebrating in particular, as you've just heard, the great contribution of Irish country music, a musical genre that has as a consequence of our history, and because of these migrations that we made, we've woven together distinct and rich musical heritage that of, as I have said already, American country roots and that of Irish country and folk, whose interaction has created something that is absolutely new too and promising in terms of what it is yielding by way of new performers. I think that sometimes the reference to that it is that country music is becoming ever more popular. I think that it is expressing something that is interesting to us as a human species. It is of the nature of different forms of species of life to actually come close to each other. And that is true of the human species as well. But the separations and the isolation and the private experience rather than the shared experience is something that I think we have suffered from it. And I think that when you see these large crowds who attend country music concerts, it's because they want to be with other people. They want to restore bonds. It is a celebration of a form of social intimacy that is incredibly important. And I wish them all well. It's a very, very long time since it's been, and I often shared the phrase when people would say, "Are ye the band?" And of course, earlier this week, I think I had been meeting some people from one of the great sources of country music, which is Chew, of course. I had a very strange experience when I was president of the Students' Union in Galway back in 1965. It was one of the things that the president could do was hiring the band for the students to play in Sea Point and Salt Hill. So I got to know all of them. I could tell you them from the Bandits on, the whole lot of the Freshmen, all of those at different times. And learning all these musicians, and so it was a great, as they would say at that time, if you played Sea Point, you were on the road. So, unfortunately, thankfully, the music lasted longer than Sea Point. I think it is also true that music, it isn't something of the past, because there are practitioners in the contemporary scene who are inspiring and nurturing young artists who have evolved this great tradition, and they're bringing it to new insights and to new experiences, as you have heard. I've been struck for a long time as well to the way in which, as I said, the music has been at the heart of the migrant experience. For example, at that time, after the great wave of immigration again in the 1950s, the people who met and made their lives meeting in the ballrooms in England and Scotland and further afield in America, whether it was Kilburn or Boston, Merseyside or New Jersey, the Irish sometimes have in fact actually used the gathering of music and dancing to actually reconnect with their culture and heritage and make a connection with home. There's also another hidden part of that in many cases, is that by going to the dance at that particular time, in that particular period, you could meet people who weren't necessarily from your family and who necessarily weren't from living next door to you at home, which gave you a whole set of options in relation to your life and to your choices. I think that in relation to the 19th century, and it is one of the things that I hope will continue after I leave Áras and Uachtaráin, there is no day I haven't used the Irish language. And I'm very, very conscious of that the first president, Douglas Heathen Creevan, long before he became President of Ireland, travelled throughout America, Mohrusk America, for example, in which he wrote about how often he was there for watching the burning of the fire of San Francisco. He gave half what he had collected for money for the Irish language back to those who, in fact, were trying to deal with the circumstances of the fire. I also think that it is so important in many ways, but when I think about it, it is in many ways the music survived when the language didn't. Much of this due to the fact, I always remember when I went to Galway at the age of 19, I would meet people in Connemara who would refer to it. There was Tom on Berle, Chastal and Fustiach that Irish was necessary for employment. And they would refer to the Irish languages Changa and Bod, whatever. But the point about it is, the good news is that the Irish language is coming back, and it is very, very much not among and that is that's very important. But I also think as well, which is very, very interesting about the music of that period, it was very interesting that it is one of the most continuous, truest expressions of Irishness through different centuries. There is a period in Ireland when, in fact, I think in the 1930s in particular, and sometimes it ran into the 1950s, where jazz was referred to, remember, as the music of the devil, and where people spoke about the fiddle was condemned, I think, and particularly two parts of Ireland. And I think that it was kept alive in Donegal very much by the contribution of the travelling people who had made, and then there is the famous evidence of the tin fiddle, and the one that was made in a particular way. I do remember as well in many cases when I gave the speech originally celebrating the man who was deported from Ireland, that it was about the running of a dance. 1934 is the year when the Dance Halls Act comes in. But isn't it wonderful that we survived it all? And isn't it wonderful, in fact, actually, that the music and, as I said, the musicians valued it. So today we're celebrating, if you like, the spirit of community and the valuable contribution made by those who made music. And made music in houses and made music in halls. And who ate all of those sandwiches that could have killed a horse. And all of the rest of it. But also, as well as that, how much we owe in God from them. We're very fortunate this evening. So more focus got us my weakest parts and the word. I want to thank a number of just only a few things. This is one of those occasions when the members of my own family, my brother, John and Maureen, his wife, and my nephews from Australia and Ireland and England, and my niece and their children in turn, are all with us this evening. As is Pat and Mary McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy's parents as well, whether he likes it or not. We all owe him so much in organising these events that it is very important. But I think that you'll be hearing this evening, I must say that this event is put together in advance by somebody who I know for many different reasons, from my Galway days, Valerie Hughes, from Galway Bay FM's The Wagon Wheel, and also you have already heard Brian Lally from RT's Country Time. Yeah. And it's very, very long time. Now, it's a very, very long time since I remember listening to the radio about it. All old hands were off to the races, you know, and so forth. But in fact, actually, when I was down, remember about County Clare, one of the things I do remember was Din Joe giving instructions to people to wheel your partner into the middle there, that it was all good. Now, I want to just simply say that our performance this evening, you may already have heard flamenco guitarist John Walsh, who's playing in the drawing room, the Frankie MacDonald band who've been playing in the lawn, and you'll also hear again, you'll hear from them later. And on the main stage this evening, we look forward to hearing from people who are really stars. Sandy Kelly, Brendan Shine, a dear friend of mine, Sean Kane, Claudia Buckley, Patrick Feeney, Cliona Hagan and Derek Ryan. And I do want to thank the house band, which has James Blenner Hassett, Enda Dempsey, Wayne Golden, Tony Fitzgibbon and Daniel Dublin. Joe Bean and his crew are the people who have been responsible for the good quality of the sound. And I want to thank all at Graveyard Events for their assistance in facilitating the needs of the performers and the musicians and ourselves. The garden parties, and you now have been holding them for 14 years, has been an hour, but they are made possible by an extraordinary commitment of cheerfulness and joy by the staff of Áras and Uachtaráin, and I just so want to thank them for that. And together with the Áras staff and the OPW will make it possible for us here and our wonderful household team. And also we're assisted by the St. John of God's Community Service in getting the programmes out, the Gardaí, our own civil defence colleagues, and so many others. And there are so many who work behind the scenes, contributing in no small way to these parties that we have been holding for 14 years. Arish Ratatatovot am hain now. And it is so important to be able to celebrate. So tonight I think that all of you here in many ways take the opportunity of enjoying the house and the gardens, but also have something to celebrate. That it is a good Ireland and an Ireland that values community, that respects music and that joins with others in expressing the appreciation and the joy something not true in every country, and that is the respect for the performers that exists in Ireland. And it goes back, and the old one would speak in Irish, they would say, "An fear gone wrong," and so forth. And also to all of those who have kept all of this alive, and all of those in the contemporary scene who are participating and bringing it safe onto future generations, I pay tribute to them. Tasulan go menishib galer, chani len Áras, tasulan go on comerage galgwitch with chana vos and a. I hope that you all enjoy this evening. Is going go rakas banat to Stiarland to deep August old plan than Tawaki, Mavuikas left.
President Michael D. Higgins. I think I can safely say that I speak for everyone here when I say that there is so much love and pride for you, our 9th president. Wasn't he amazing?